It was accidentally introduced to Virginia from Japan in the 50s. So these little white masses, this is what you look for on your hemlocks. Those little white masses are called ovisacs. They contain, and there's the eggs inside of one of those little masses. And they contain up to 200 eggs and remain on those branches throughout the year. And that little sucking insect, so once they hatch, they turn into this little juvenile. They're called crawlers. And those little crawlers then go to, see how they're all found like on the base of the needles? They will go to the base where the needle meets the little stem, and they will just feed on the starches of the tree, and they will stay there. And they'll just keep sucking all these starches out. The tree dies within 4 to 10 years. It's at Holden. It actually came into our area with some hemlocks that were purchased and brought in by one of the nurseries from Virginia. So it's here. They're trying very hard, if you're not familiar with the Hocking Hills area, go and see the hemlocks there before they're not there anymore. Fantastic area, fantastic trees. But the museum has properties in Ashtabula County that have a ton of hemlocks. And we're very concerned because we are pretty sure we're going to lose them all in time. Praying mantis. That's another one, like the ladybug. You want to get rid of the pests you don't want, we will send you 3 egg cases for $10. This is before the internet. This is when you had to mail a letter with a stamp and put a check in it. Okay, everybody said, oh, this is great. I don't have to spray anything. I'll just bring all these praying mantises in. Well, then they came in a little container. You put them on your kitchen counter. In about 2 weeks, they hatched in the middle of February. And you had all these little praying mantises running around. Well, the idea was you should have never sent them then. You should have kept them in the garage because this little Uthika, that's the egg mass. So we have our praying mantis, and it is specifically marketed as a biological control for garden pests. Except for they didn't provide you with native praying mantis, they provided you with non-native praying mantis. And the benefit of them is questionable because they eat way more than just the bad insects. So here is a female praying mantis. She's loaded with her little foam that's going to be the eggs and the foam all mixed together, and we'll talk about that. But where the little purple is pointing, on the inside or the armpit of the praying arms, the front pairs of legs, there's a little white circle with a black ring around it. That tells you that that is a European praying mantis, and it's not native. It's big. It's a lot bigger than the native mantis. It's like, a third bigger than the native mantis. And they will lay their eggs in this mass. It looks like shaving cream when they first lay it. And then over a series of a couple of hours, and it dries. And it stays like this through the winter. However, if you're a woodpecker, you may have figured out that there's little bodies in there, and you might slice it open and try to eat them. But this little structure is the egg case. It contains up to 400 eggs in there. Our native mantis, the Carolina mantis, looks somewhat like this. It's much smaller. It's rarely found in northern Ohio. I personally, of all the hours that I spend in the field, I have never seen a native mantis in northern Ohio. I've seen them in southern Ohio, but I've never seen one in northern Ohio. Part of the problem is this praying mantis eats the native praying mantis. And we have 2 non-native mantises, the Chinese mantis and the European mantis. This is a European. This one's probably also a European. It's eating a little skipper. But again, so it was supposed to eat all the bad things. Well, they're not very selective. They eat anything that moves. And they're very happy about that. This one is probably, of all these things, and all these things are problematic, this one is probably my least favorite because of the damage that it incurred and to everything that's out there in the bird world. Brown-headed cowbird. When you go into a big area, a big forested area, and you clear, you are opening avenues for this bird to come in and look for nests and lay their eggs. So right here, you can't barely see her, but this is a female going into these cavities looking for a woodpecker nest to drop her egg off. Okay? They don't make their own nest, they do lay their eggs. But they are looking for nests of other birds. And that's the end of their parental duty. They lay the egg, boom, they're gone. The females, okay, so they're called parasitic because they do this process of laying their eggs in in other birds' nests. They have found at least 200 species of birds, 220 species of birds have been documented as a host. I mean, most people haven't even seen 220 species of birds in Ohio. That's a lot of birds. But that means that this cowbird can pretty much lay its egg in any nest it finds. It can lay its egg in the tiniest of nests, probably not a hummingbird nest because the egg is probably bigger than the nest, but everything else is pretty much fair game. The females can lay up to 36 eggs in a season. That's another 36, or at least 30, maybe even 25, that make it through to adulthood. And half of those, if they're females, start the process all over again. The native birds often end up losing their offspring as the larger cowbird young outcompete the native birds that are in the nest. So, here is an eastern phoebe nest. Pick out the cowbird egg. Okay, but if you're this little eastern phoebe, that egg's bigger, but maybe not a lot bigger. If she continues to sit and incubate those eggs and they all hatch, guess who's going to be the big one? Guess who's going to get all the food? He's going to be taller. He's going to be bigger. He's going to basically, he or she is basically going to outcompete all the other ones. And what happens is, here is a hooded warbler nest with 2 cowbirds in it. No hooded warblers in it. Now, some birds recognize the fact that there is an egg in there that's not theirs. Sometimes they'll try to boot it out, take their bill and try to push it out. Sometimes they will build another nest over top of it and start over again. So there are some that can pick that out. But this is the one that was always one of the worst things. Here you have this beautiful hooded warbler feeding a cowbird that's already its size and can't even fly because the cowbird is a considerably larger bird. But we watched while this bird, him and his wife, brought insect after insect after insect and fed this bird even though it was no longer in the nest. And we'll raise that bird to adulthood and start it all over again. Why is this important? Because if the woods is large and intact, the cowbirds don't venture in so much when it's like a deep dark woods. They'll go around the edges. They'll go through a corridor like a power line cut or something like that. But if it's kept in its entirety, it helps to keep those birds out. And yes, that is a non-native bird. Okay, so now we're going to get to some happy pictures. Okay, all is not lost. There are things that we can do. Some people think, well, you know, maybe on a bigger scale, maybe I can do something else. But again, some of these things we've talked about. You know, you want to preserve and protect habitat diversity. So you might have headwater streams, big meadows, rock units that have, gorges, ledges, things like that. Hemlock groves. Again, all of these are not typical habitats because a lot of them have already been destroyed. So when we protect these wooded woodlands and maybe the wetlands around it, these are some of the faces of the things that we might see. Hummingbird sphinx moth, barred owl, tiger beetle, crayfish, eastern spotted newt or eastern newt. All of these things can live in these habitats, but when these habitats are altered dramatically, or even to some of these things altered a little bit, they can't make it. Okay, and then preserving and protecting rare habitats. So we're talking a bog or a fen, these woodland wetlands or vernal pools, swamp forests. This is a fen, this is a bog, but these two are actually kind of similar. Again, rare things live there, and only there. So if those habitats are taken away or changed in any way, we're going to lose things like bog willow, spotted turtle, the pitcher plant, and one of my favorites, chalk-fronted corporal, one of our state endangered dragonflies. Have to be in this area. They have to have certain water, the chemistry, the temperature, all of that makes a huge difference for these creatures. When we preserve and protect farmland and meadows, a lot of our farmland, we've got a lot of programs now that assist farmers with, not necessarily planting crops all the time or putting them in CAUV, just different programs that help. When these fields are left like this, there's a lot of nesting that can go on in there. Here's that goldenrod that brings in the monarchs when they're, coming through migration. well, as soon as this yellow flower blooms, I'm going to start to sneeze, so let's cut every plant now. Goldenrod is pollinated by insects. The grass, it's in the grass family, but those of you should know the plant that's giving you the hay fever. Ragweed. Ragweed just happens to bloom the same time goldenrod blooms, but the ragweed bloom is very small, very tiny, non-showy, because it is pollinated by the wind. That's why you breathe